This week, we are going to dive into the ridiculously integrated development environment, also known as RIDE. It's a good week where Hunter has and the team have deployed a bunch of new features. Around workflows, I'm really excited to show. So, if you've watched any of the previous webinars, we've dove in pretty deep into how the workflows go, and they've changed, and we think for the better. So that's going to work great. So I'm going to share up my screen here, and we'll go through what Ride is and what's new within it. When you first get into Ride and log in, you get a Let's Build screen. I have two demo apps here. One is my coloring book app, and one is my Stoicism journal app, which we'll dive into. But I figured we'll start off with showing how you create a project, which is pretty darn simple. Now that you go in, there's three steps. You create a project name, so we can say demo app, give it a description. This is an app for a demo. And then from there, you will create a password for your database and hit finish setup, where it will automatically configure your GitHub, your Supabase, and your Azure resources for you, saving you many, many hours of frustration diving into those web portals and get everything ready to rock and roll. So I'm going to bypass that since I already have it set up for demo purposes. The entire demo is basically one of those we have a turkey in the oven, so you don't have to wait around for these pieces. So we'll go with my journal, Stoicism journal app. Every day I have been using ChatGPT to give me a couple like things to reflect on, and one of which I was like, give me a daily like quote from a famous Stoic person. And so it'll quote like Seneca or Marcus Aurelius and give me something to reflect on. And another piece that I've done is I've always done journaling in the morning to just kind of get my thoughts out of my head and so I can focus on other things. So I thought, this would be a fun idea to mix stoicism with journaling and create an app around that. So the whole concept is it'll give you a quote, it'll allow you to journal, and then you will be able to use AI to act as though it is one of these great Stoic knowledge mentors and give you insights on what you're journaling about. So thought it would be a fun idea. When you first load up the app, there's not going to be any completed changes or things like that. It's just going to be ready for you to just start planning your first changes. And this is the really one of my favorite parts of the ride area, which is the planning portion. From here, you will be able to define all your workflows, your definitions of what's going to be within the app, so everyone knows what you're actually talking about, the AI and humans included, as well as your different user types within your application. When you first load it up, there's nothing here. It's just a blank screen. And it's just like how I love to compare this. It's just like having a conversation with a buddy. So, Josh, if you and I were talking about an app and you're like, hey, you're going to help me build this, the first thing you see is like, hey, what do you want to build? What do you want to do?
Right.
And so we have that same kind of conversation with the AI. So, what can you help me do? So the AI itself is going to take that role of the coach, the mentor, and help get your ideas out of your head and into the platform so you can help get them developed. So it just talks about here, I can help guide you through the core vision, your workflows of your future software, whether you're thinking about an app, web platform, digital tool. He's just here to clarify what it is. And my favorite part of this AI is the amount of questions that it asks you. It lets you really, really dig in to specifically identify what you're looking to do. So if I was looking to build a feature for like this, how to start off displaying a stoic quote, I would just message that. But since I already have that turkey in the oven, we can kind of go in what it has. One of the new changes that we've added is the ability for now the AI will actually come up with the user stories and acceptance criteria for you automatically rather than you having to manually do this. So I had a conversation with the AI and I was telling it, first thing I want my app to do is I want it to give you a daily Stoic quote at the top of the app. So it defined these steps of when it opens the app, it checks for the current day's quote. If there is a quote already, it won't display a new one. So it'll always be the same quote for the day. If there's no daily quote exists for the day, the system generates a new quote using an AI tool such as OpenAI, along with the author's source info, and stores that for the users. It makes visible the users are able to return to the app for future days and see the quotes. What's also a huge thing that we use is the Gherkin user stories. So as a user, I want to see my unique daily quote when I open the app so that I'm greeted with a fresh inspiration and context for reflection. And then a big thing that is huge now that we've identified from doing all these projects with customers is what is acceptance criteria? So, what am I going to get and what am I going to test once it is built for me? Whether we use the AI to build that or we use a human code buddy to build these things, what am I going to actually test on? So, given that I'm logged in and the app is open, I see the daily quote. Given that I've not received a quote for today, when I access the app, the system generates and displays a new quote. Given that I visit multiple times a day, when I access the app, I see the same quote. And then when I want to see previous quotes, I can access the quote history and I can review the past daily Stoic quotes, including the author and the source. So going through that, I can have a good idea. I also created one for journal entry correction and reflection, as well as one for Stoic analysis and mentorship. So it does kind of those three pieces that I wanted to do. As part of all of it as well, we identified user types. So there is a user is a customer who pays and uses the service, as well as an administrator is the platform manager, such as myself, who has access to management features and oversees user accounts, manages the content, monitoring AI interactions, and handles administrative settings. So if I wanted to create a new user type, so let's say I wanted to have a create a guest user, the AI is going to first not just make that, or shouldn't, we'll see, but it's going to ask me questions. There it goes. It can ask me questions on what I want that to actually do. So I'm going to, what kind of features do they want me to use? Is there any specific restrictions in place? All of these little pieces. And I will have that conversation with the AI, just like I would with you, Josh, and we would just hash that out. And then once it's ready, it'll add it to my users types. Definitions, as I mentioned earlier, are a huge part of software development because you want everyone on the same page to understand what you're actually talking about. And someone might think of a user or a daily Stoic quote as meaning one thing or a journal entry meaning something, when in the other person might have a slightly different view of it or can be completely off base. And so we really want to make sure when we're doing the development process, everyone has the same understanding. So as we go through the ideas with the AI is going to create definitions. So I have journal entries, AI journal prompts, AI Stoic teachers, a daily Stoic quote already defined within here. So the AI knows what it's doing when it's building it. If we incorporate any code buddies, such as yourself, into it, you understand what I'm talking about. And then me as a user, if as I go through this project, if things start to kind of morph and get more refined as I go, I can make sure I'm either updating this as that happens or I'm still on the same page as everybody else. Because that's something else we saw a lot when we're doing projects is these, apps can take sometimes, multiple months as they go through different versions. And you, as a founder, are going to be having conversations with investors and customers and users and team members. And it's always an evolving and moving target. So this gives you a really good centralized place to make sure that everyone's on the same page. But what we can go do here is I can start with my daily stoic quote and I'm ready to go. I can hit implement. From here, it will take us to the coding page. My favorite feature right here is making this a little bit bigger so I can see all the text. And the AI will then analyze it. It will look at what we already have based off of the starter kit that we build every piece of software on. So you don't have to start from zero. The AI has a really solid foundation using our core architectures, methodologies, technologies, everything set up. So you're starting from a much more advantageous place that you would from other tools. And it will then give you a lot more context on what to ask you. So it's going to ask me, kind of comes up with a plan, gives me back end checklists, gives me front end checklists, steps to implement, a plan that it wants to do, and it goes, all right, what's the next step we want to do? Should we quote history be shown in a selectable calendar? Do you want past quotes accessibles? Is there any specific UI that I want? Once you confirm, it'll then start going through. And so I can say like, up to you on the calendar. Um, let's do menu and let's say any specific, make it look beautiful. And what's great about this is you can be as specific as you want. So you can really, really get, again, your idea. You can spend a lot of time with this. And I'm just going quick for the purpose of the demo, but we have users and our own developers and people really spending a lot of time getting the things right to communicate to the AI. And once you send it off, it's going to go through and it's going to read all the pages within the app. It's going to look through all these different things. It's going to get a lot more context. And then from there, it's going to kind of put together that plan and pull up a change request on what it thinks that you might want to start with. So let's let it think here for a second. Josh, is there anything you want to add while the AI is thinking?
Yeah, so I really enjoyed the new changes that came with the workflow. Um, that's been really beneficial. As someone who's like highly technical, I think it's really good also for me. Just trying to think of very like constrained acceptance criteria and user stories because I can go overboard. Right? I think we
Hmm.
have a lot of great ideas, but we don't know how to filter them, and we need a little bit of help filtering those and get them really concise to what makes a good MVP, minimal viable product. So it's just really good to see that, and then how it still coincides with what we're doing right now.
Yep. No, I definitely kind of skipped over that, and we should have highlighted a little bit more of what is beautiful, like you said, is just getting you. It's just the amount of clarifying questions that it'll ask to make sure
Hmm.
that you're pared down into something that's actionable and also really understand what you are requesting from the AI or from the developer. Because so many times, especially when it's all new, you're like, oh, this isn't going to be that hard. It isn't going to be that simple. I only want you to recreate a combination of Uber and, Walmart or something like the Walmart app, and you're like, it's super simple because they those already exist. And you're like, no, those
Right.
are crazy. But you can from here, you can actually dissect and it's like, okay, specifically, what am I asking for? How is that going to work? What are those workflows? What is this going to look like? What type of menu type should this be in? What type of buttons? All of those things matter because when you're developing software, there isn't really anything that exists in that world. A developer or an AI has to create those things. So what you might assume is obvious is may not be entirely based off of the how you communicate it to the AI or how you would communicate it to a human developer. So being able to be hyper specific and really communicate and build that higher resolution plan is super helpful. And with the new version of Ride, it takes a lot of the things out of your like not out of your hands, but it lifts you up to where you don't have to like really dive as deep in like
Right.
yourself and type everything out. It'll give you a lot of options and plans to select from and then refine from there, which makes it happen a lot faster. And I don't know, just from your experience, Josh, but it went from planning maybe taking hours to a day to now you can plan an app in maybe 15 minutes to an hour
Yeah.
at the same amount of resolution. It's
Yeah,
really cool.
usually when you're building out like user stories, depending on like, the vision of the app, so that, and I've done this with like even like personal clients with like my freelance work, throughout my career. And sometimes you got to sit down with them and that could be like one, two, three sessions. I mean, like it's not easy like trying to help them understand like, hey, here's the MVP and this is where it needs to go. But with CodeBuddy, you can do that instantly. Like right away, you can be as creative as you can be, and CodeBuddy will not only put constraints, but like those clarifying questions, as Tanner was saying, is so key to understanding like what is possible to be able to get this product out the door and then start getting those very quick and real-time feedback. And like Teresa said, that's like probably one of her favorite activities is being able to have that interaction with CodeBuddy.
Yeah, it's the collaboration. I like to say it's
Mm,
not AI driven, but it's AI assisted. So it
correct.
really feels like it's someone there like helping you along the way, and you're still in the driver's seat. And then the thing that we do that is unique to any other platform, again, is bringing humans in the mix, which we'll dive into a little bit more here shortly. So the suggested changes are pulled up. You can see the change request here in red, what it's looking to remove, green, what it's looking to add. You can type within here. So if you want to make any additions, changes, things like that, you can do so manually. You can message write if it gets anything wrong, and it gives you a little summary. So this is just adding some beautiful modern styling to ensure the quote sources work is displayed under the author. I'm going to cancel this request, so we don't need to go through it all just for time's sake. But it'll go through just like an agent and think through all these different points, just like a human would give you the change request, so you can review the work, make sure it's all
Hmm.
quality of things that you actually want, and really sculpt it the way that you want it to be, and really enable it to be great. Once you have your changes done, you are able to go through, review your changes, name them, accept it, and then do a be able to then publish it to your test environment within Azure that was already set up within the project. And then you can send that off for QA testing for yourself, or if you have some coworkers or friends or selected users. And then when that's all ready, you'll be able to upload it to your live production environment that is created as well within your Azure account to get things rolling. So it really goes from like, 0 to 1 or from idea to launch as quickly as possible. Just to again, like validate your ideas, start seeing them in like as good proof of concepts, prove that like people actually enjoy using them and people and it's sticky before you spend all this money. Traditionally, when you were needing to develop, you would have to spend weeks or months yourself grinding through to get to a
Mhm.
stage to where you did. Or if you were not a super technical user, you would have to hire people and spend, thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars to get some sort of proof of concept to just see if you have any valid ideas. So now we're able to do that in a much, much quicker way and get things going. The other beautiful thing of this is as you get through like feedback from users, you're able to refine these different workflows. So you're like, actually that workflow users are using a little bit differently, or they're saying like, oh, it'd be great if
Mhm.
we had this option, or this was
Right.
confusing. So you just like you would with a human developer, have a conversation with it, explain what's confusing, and refine these user stories. And then from there you can refine the code and go through it all and then just keep iterating and building as quickly and effectively as possible. So it's a really cool, powerful loop that you're into. You're just, get your idea out of your head, get the data in there, build the plan, launch the plan, and then validate it. So it's a really, really cool option. The thing that I'm going to stop sharing here, there we go. The other piece of this that, again, as I mentioned, is unique to us is the human aspect. So we're the only platform right now that is combining like artificial intelligence plus human expertise to allow you to build better software faster. So, as part of the plan, you always have access to a code buddy, such as Josh here, who is kind of like there to coach you and assist you along the way. So, JB, I want you to talk about your experience of like what your role is, as well as your feel free to jam on like what you've thought of Ride so far in your time using it.
Yeah, my name is Joshua Berrios, so you can call me JB. I just recently just joined the team. I'm really excited to also be a part of your team and guiding you in building out your ideas into a very full stack application that you can start getting feedback on. I'm a product developer here at CodeBuddy, which means I not only receive your feedback and give that to our team and start to think of ideas of how to improve some of the flows and the UI UX experience as well. But my primary role is to help you and guide you through using CodeBuddy and how you can understand some of those things that maybe you might need a little extra clarity on, so that way you can know how to prompt it better, so that way you can understand the output and the result that it's giving you, so you can start to refine and refine as much as possible. Sometimes AI is it is its own like it's in its own box and it could think a certain way. It may not be like fluidly creative as like a human. And I think that that's why the human expertise or the human touch is still important in this era of AI, especially when we're developing applications to make an impact in the world. So looking forward to being on your team and guiding you guys, whether that's on a boot camp or one-on-one coaching. Um, just be on the lookout.
Yeah, one of the things that is kind of hit the lexicon lately is vibe coding, and one of the bad things of
Yes.
that is the quality of software that people who are aspiring technical founders can make, because you can build really cool looking things to start, and very, very quickly does that house to start cards start to crumble, where you might have security vulnerabilities, feature creep, bad performance, all sorts of different things.
Yes.
So one of the things that I'm really looking forward to is having access to someone like yourself is to kind of keep everything on the rails a little bit better, someone to kind of like provide a little bit of oversight and guidance and making sure that you're not making any critical errors along the way. Because the whole goal is to build professional quality software. There's a lot of AI platforms out there where you can build what I like to refer to as toys. They're really nice for proof of concepts. They're fun little like widgets or little things that you can do, but you wouldn't actually want to put any like your livelihood behind it. And that's what we're doing so many of the times when we're actually building a startup is putting your livelihood into it. So
Right.
we want to have AI do what AI does best, and we want to
Hmm.
enable humans to do what they do best. So you, as using the platform, get the best of both worlds.
Yeah, and you and I were actually having a conversation offline. I think it was like yesterday or something like that about the biggest thing that a lot of like startups they need to have already in place when they're bringing a presentation, to like investors or accelerator programs, etc., is a proof of concept that's actually interactive, something that's viable. And I think the biggest thing that I really enjoy about CodeBuddy, and I've used all these other AI tools myself, is CodeBuddy really prides itself on function over form. So, like, if your idea that you're trying to bring out into the world and make an impact is functional, and then they can see the results, that's more than enough. To be said, because everything else, like the way that it looks and prettying it up, that's like probably the last piece of it. And someone said even said like, before you would have to you would have to do the other way around. Like you would have to design, then you build the function. But in reality, we're flipping it on its head, and CodeBuddy is just exactly that. It's trying to make it a reality instead of like this, like almost like a dream, right? Which is a visualization of what's possible. But then when you wake up, it's like, oh, it's not really here.
Yeah.
But CodeBuddy makes it possible.
Yeah, our CTO Hunter came up with the term retroactive design, which follows
Yes.
that. And it is really powerful. And it almost sounds like, oh, of course, making it pretty. But what we find is a lot of people who maybe don't fully understand how software development works and stuff, they really focus on the things that they can control or do understand, which is how it looks. And so you can
Hmm.
spend an inordinate amount of time, money, resources in making it pretty or just making it look good before you actually validate that you actually have something that's very, very functional and very, very powerful and marketable. So by enabling users to understand and focus on how it is going to work and how it does function and how it is like built is gives them a whole new leverage or a whole new level of power that they didn't have before. So they don't have to just rely on, okay, does this look right? But more, does it actually like do what I need it to do or
Hmm.
do what the users need it to do so I can build this off of it. So yeah, I really like that approach that we're doing. And you can still build very beautiful apps on that. So
Yes. Yes, you
we don't
can.
want to say that, what's going to come out is ugly, but
Right.
when
Correct.
you're focusing on the workflows, when you're focusing on all of the under the hood things, it builds a lot more power. And the other part of it, it's definitely a really strong foundation for you. So many times when you're building these MVP apps or proof of concepts through other AI tools, they are very disposable. And so maybe you did come up with that right loop. You have the right idea. You go and you talk to an investor and they're going to invest in your company and then you start to build out your team. Well, now you're just ripping and replacing everything. We're actually giving you the right tools and foundation to where you can just keep that momentum going and bring in your developers, keep using Ride, do all these components so you just keep that supported momentum the whole time, as well as still having access to the code buddies to provide additional resources and lift that you might need. So it's not that we're just here for one small chunk of it. We're actually here through the entire life cycle of your app, which is really, really cool.
Yeah. And something that I want to do like expand a little bit on is like when you were saying earlier, oh, like you can on the suggestions, like you can actually like type in code on that right side as well. So like if a developer is on your team and you're using Ride, like they can still use Ride, right? And then if you like send them like an idea, maybe you yeah, at a fast food restaurant, you thought of something and your developer is working on the project, but like, hey, can you tell it to like do this? And then to still be able to keep going, right? Like there's this cycle that's just like nonstop. because it's not necessarily for the non-technical all the way, right? But if you need to build a team around Ride, you can also do that too.
Yeah,
So,
it's definitely a
which is nice.
professional development tool first and foremost. But our vision has definitely been like widening accessibility of who can build software.
Right.
So where you definitely want to be a technically aspiring person who wants to
Yes.
dig in and learn and understand how code works. If you don't want to do any of the building yourself, it's a great resource for building your team around. Or we do have CodeBuddy services to where we will build certain things for you, which is great. But the power really does come from being in the driver's seat and understanding your software.
Yeah.
Because if you're building a startup and a business around a piece of software and you don't actually understand it, then you're not in control of your own business because you're at the mercy of who is building it.
Hmm.
And you get more, we really want to enable then those founders to understand how it's built, understand what they're asking for with when they want to make changes, how big of a thing. If there is something wrong, they can have a good understanding of, okay, what piece broke, rather than just being like, oh my gosh, it's broken, it's down, I don't know what to do. And that causes a lot of panic and insecurity. Again, we're really enabling founders to be able to do more. And it's an amazing learning resource. And then you mentioned like the boot camp. We really want to kind of ramp people up on their technical capacity as well as like building a really cool app fast. And you learn best by doing. So we think that's going
Yes.
to be a great option. And we are one of the only platforms too that get cheaper as you use it. So the boot camp is the most expensive option, starting at 2,500 a month. But even that cost we figured is half the cost of one development sprint we were doing on projects, which was like a quarter of the cost of having someone else build it traditionally. So it's really just a fraction of the cost of what it used to be compared to other options for non-full developer founders. And from there, once you do get your apps built, you go down to our growth plan, which is less money. And then eventually, once you have your own team, you only just need to buy the ride licenses. So really, you're just kind of paying for the amount of AI token usage that you need as well as the platform. So we try to make it really accessible to everybody and a really, really good value. And again, for professional grade software, for professional grade results, it's unmatched.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. So, Teresa, do you have any questions for us through there? We'll let her type. Sure, okay. Yeah, let me allow you to talk here.
Hi, can you hear me?
Gotcha. Welcome, welcome.
Hi. Um, so this is great. And this is my first webinar I've attended. And obviously, I've done some work with you that has been completed. And so I'm just thinking about like putting myself in this situation and thinking about some next steps. And
Hmm.
so, apologies if you already went over this, but can you kind of talk about like what it looks like to access what you are referring to and the kind of like cadence or timeline that you typically see founders using what you have created?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Teresa's in a great spot. So she helped enlisted CodeBuddy to help build a site app for her startup she made, and everything that we built for her was in Ride. So we delivered those pieces and components for her, and now, like you mentioned, you want to continue to build on it. So, kind of next steps, if you were interested, we can set you up within your own Ride instance. You would just kind of sign up and roll and then work with Josh to get going there. And so instead of it just being, as shown on screen here, like my journal app, it could be yours. You'd have your code, everything built into here. The AI would have all of the context of your app, all those pieces, and you could just start refining and developing. And then as you needed help, you would have the ability to, jump on a call with Josh, ask him questions, and then also we are working on the ability to outsource some workflows as well to have a code buddy build those. So if you're looking for additional features, you could kind of get those all defined and ready. And then you'd be able to get a quote on how much it would be to build a new feature. So if I wanted CodeBuddy to build this, the stoic analysis portion, we could tell you how much that would be in the timeline. So it kind of keeps you rolling and going as well. as well as if you were looking to bring in your own developers into it. It has multi-tenancy, so you can add multiple users. You just need a license for each, and then they can all sync, collaborate, and work together. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. And it's super
Yeah,
cool
perfect.
to see it, see how the process looks that like we benefited from, but now being able to like see it all and like be able to use it in this way is awesome.
Yeah, it's really powerful. It's also great. Where if you're having someone else build certain applications for you and you may not you get it and you're like, how does this work? You can ask the AI. It is so cool.
Mhm.
It is so neat.
Mhm.
And same goes if you're onboarding like new developers in your team or you're bringing in a freelancer or some of those components, they can ask the AI in the same way. So they're like, okay, how is this set up? Here, I'll do it real quick. Let me share my screen. So I'll go to the code function and I can just ask it, how is this apps built? So it'll do a quick thinking here and it'll bring up kind of like an overview of like how this app is assembled. I can ask it like probably a better question of like how's the architecture done? How do we set up the front end? How do we set up the back end? But you have all this information here that you're like, okay, the front end is built off of React with TypeScript. Its UI's components is built with Material UI. You can start looking at how the back end is .NET C Sharp, and here are the managers, engines, accessors, utilities. And then I'm like, okay, I don't necessarily understand like what accessors are. So you can dive into that a little bit more. Or if you're unsure of like how Terraform is configured, you can just ask the AI and it'll start like explaining these things to you. And so you get a much, much better understanding of like, okay, now I know how my app is built. Now I know where things are at. And you can ask it too, like, can you open like the front end page for me? Or where is this located within the code? We have a kind of I didn't dive into it, probably should have, a little focused view here that kind of just shows you the things that we feel at that moment are probably pertinent. But you can dive in and really look into all of the different like HTMLs, JSON files, every little files, assets, everything in here. But you don't have to go through these file trees and try to find stuff. You can just ask the AI to pull it up for you. It's really cool. JB, anything you want to add in?
No, I don't think I have anything else. I
Cool.
think you really covered it. Um, just really excited to help people get through this CodeBuddy journey to use Ride. And it's really cool to meet someone like Teresa who used CodeBuddy in a different way, and now soon will experience CodeBuddy in a whole different way that will be innovative for her startup.
Awesome. Teresa, is there any other questions I can answer for you?
Um, I I don't necessarily have any questions, but I do want to also add in that what I just love and appreciate is the human assisted part because when it's just AI, it doesn't feel quite as quality, maybe, or like sometimes you just want like a human thought partner, someone with that expertise. And so I really appreciate the duality here.
Awesome. I really appreciate that. Yeah, for anyone watching who is interested in next steps, you can visit our website, codebuddy.com. There's a request a demo there. That'll go to me. I'll reach out and we can set up a one-on-one time to go over the Ride platform more in depth, spend a little more time there, answer any questions, as well as talk about what you're looking to build and how we might be able to help, and then which one of our plans are good to start with you. Like I said, we have our boot camp, which is the most supportive as possible, where you get one-on-one resources with Josh every or JB every week. You get we're adding in community elements, we're adding in tons and tons of options, all the way down to if you are a full stack developer already, just looking for a really good tool, our essentials plan, which is just the ride application itself, but you can always in a la carte human meetings so you can get a meeting with a code buddy and get some support as well. So all of those things are on our website. Just hit request a demo and that'll get you started. And then from there, I guess we will see everybody next week for the next webinar. So thanks for coming and we'll talk soon.
Thank you so much.